you. All right, we're going to get started with an icebreaker. Just trying to get a sense of how people are feeling about applying for their LSC. I want you to describe how you feel about your application or application process right now by choosing an emoji and dropping that in the chat line. So however you're feeling, choose the appropriate emoji to reflect how you feel about applying for a seat at your LSC now. And drop that in the chat. Now I'm going to find the chat because I want to see all these images. Okay, I see some smiley faces, excited. Okay, I see some, oh, like, what is this? All right, some worried. I see some thumbs up, which is great. See some happy, some questioning, like, what is going on? I see some questioning. Okay. All right, a lot of thumbs up, which is great. Okay, so for those of you that have the scary face or the questioning face, it is our hope that we will make this less stressful for you. It is our hope that you can get your questions answered. And it is our hope we can change that worried face into an excited face where you're excited about this process. See some fist bumps, which is great. Okay. All right. Thank you for participating and getting all those great emojis in the chat. Thank you for humoring me. I love icebreakers. All right, so what I'd like to do now, we're going to get started with our program. This is our agenda for today. We'll do the welcome, give you some history of LSCs, the responsibility and role of LSC members, eligibility to run. We're going to talk about campaigning. And then this is, I think, the best part of today's agenda is we're going to have a panel discussion with actual LSC members that represent various stakeholder groups. So a panel discussion, and then we'll have a question and answer session with our panels. You have an opportunity to ask questions of the panelists. And so what we're going to ask you to do while we're doing the panel discussion, you can put questions in the Q&A section for the panelists whom you want to answer your question. So if you have a question for our community member, you put a C and then your question. If you have a question for our teacher panelist, you put a T, then your question. If you have a question for our student member, you put an S and then your question. If you have a question for our parent members, we have two, you put a P, then your question. And we're looking forward to getting to as many questions as possible in the Q&A section. We're going to do a quick plug for election judge recruitment, and then we'll close it out. So first, I started talking and never said what my name was. That's kind of what I do. Anybody that knows me, I just get in the meeting and start talking. I need to pace myself. My name is Kashasha Williams Ford. I'm the new LSC Relations Director. I started about 3 months ago, but it feels like I've been in the job for a year, but it's been really fun and exciting. I've had an opportunity to meet a lot of LSC members and talk to them in this three months. A little bit about my background. I'm a product of CPS, elementary and high school. I've had various positions in the district as a teacher, as an investigations manager, the Office of Social Emotional Learning. I was assistant principal, and also I served as a board attorney. And I also am a CPS parent. I have two children, two sons, wonderful sons that attend CPS schools. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm super excited that you all are here to learn about what it means to be a part of the LSC. And I'm excited that you're here also to hear from our great panelists and to answer your questions about their experience and just get some advice. So just thank you. And you could be anywhere in the city of Chicago or at home, but you're here with us. And I appreciate your attendance. So just a little bit of history for those that may not have as much information and know about LSCs. They were created in 1988 as a result of the Chicago Reform Act. And this happened under Mayor Harold Washington, who was our first Black mayor of Chicago. He was an advocate for democratic school governance, and LSCs were created with the intent of improving academic achievement by placing the responsibility of the school governance in the hands of parents, community members, teachers, school principals, and also now students. And our first LSC election was held in 1989, long time ago, and we're still going strong. So what are the duties or some of the decisions that LSCs make? They approve budgets, budget transfers, they select principals, they renew principals' contracts, they also evaluate principals' professional performance, and they also approve and monitor the school-based academic program, approve fundraisers. They are a governing body of the school and they work in partnership with the principal. So what does the LSC membership look like? So the membership is diverse and it has varied types of members as a part of its constituency. So we have parents, we have 6 parent members on LSCs. We have 2 community members. We also have students on the high school level. We have 3 student members. And now this is new for this election cycle. Starting in July 2022, we will now have a student member on the elementary school level LSCs. Super exciting. This is a new legislative ad that just happened in December. Super excited about having the younger student voice on our LSCs. We also have 3 staff members, a part of the LSC. We have 2 teachers and 2 non-teacher, 2 teachers and 1 non-teacher member. So the parent, community, and staff members serve a 2-year term. Our student members serve a 1-year term. And all members have to reapply after each term. So that means they're submitting their nomination packets again and participating in the elections. So let's talk about the eligibility to run for a seat on your LSC. So to be a community member on your school LSC, you must reside in the school's attendance area or its voting district boundaries. You have to be at least 17 years old and not the parent or not the step parent or legal guardian of a child enrolled at the school, and you cannot be employed by the district. LSCs have 6 parent members, and to be a parent member, you have to be the biological or adoptive parent, step parent, or legal guardian of a child enrolled in the school. So temporary or DCF guardianship does not apply, and you cannot be employed by the district. To run for a seat as a student member, you have to be a full-time student at the high school or the elementary school that you're running. So for on the elementary level, you have to be in 6th grade or up, or elementary or high school, you have to be in 6th grade or up. As a reminder, high schools have 3 members and elementary schools will have 1 member. So a full-time student. And in the election, all students in the building can vote for the candidates that are running. So I wanted to make sure we're clear on that. All students are eligible to vote. To run as a staff member for LSC seat. So we have 2 teacher positions. You have to be employed and assigned a majority of your duties at the school. So when we talk about majority of your duties, not 1 day, it should be 3 or more days, a majority of your time at that particular assigned school. And a teacher must have the required teaching certificate. There are 2 positions on the school level for teachers. For non-teachers, there's 1 position. You have to be employed and assign a majority of your duties at that school. And this particular staff position does not require a teaching certificate. So I'm going to do a quick kind of overview of like what the campaign process looks like. Now that we talked about what makes you eligible to run. So your campaign really starts with your nomination packet. You want to get that in. The deadline is March 4th. And your campaign really begins with that candidate statement. That's Form 422. You're sharing about why you're running and what you hope to add to the council to help the school. And when you apply, that candidate statement is posted by the school within 24 hours of your submission. You're allowed to create and distribute flyers on public property. You can actually even start that now. So you can start campaigning. You also are encouraged to participate in candidate forums. And in these candidate forums, you have an opportunity to address potential voters. So parent and community candidates, schools should be holding their candidate forums between March 21st and March 25th. So I encourage you to participate. And then for student and staff candidates, the school will set up or arrange candidate forums for that process. So it'll vary by school. But I encourage you to participate in the forums because you have an opportunity to get, again, in front of voters. There's a process in which you can actually have your candidate materials sent home with students, right? So if you have materials, flyers, handouts, you can create and on your own, create campaign documents that if you get them to the school by April 4th, those campaign materials can be distributed by the school to students on April 18th. So when you put together those packets, you want to assemble them by like classes, like 30 sheets per class. If there are 20 classes in the school, you can do 30 sets of 30 for each class. So the school won't collate them for you. You need to make sure you have them already assembled and ready to go into to the school, and they can just drop them into boxes. And also remember that candidates cannot use school resources to make copies of those candidate materials. So you have to make those copies on your own and give them to the school. On election day, April 20th and April 21st, you can continue to distribute literature, but you must make sure that you are more than 50 feet away from the entrances of the school. All right, that's a lot of stuff. So now I want to give you a bit of information about how to apply and some deadlines around where you can get these materials to apply. So you can find all the nomination materials at the cps.edu/LSC website. If you are submitting the documents to your school that you're running, you have until March 4th to get that paperwork into the school. If you choose not to apply directly at the school, you need to get those documents to our office on February 25th, a week earlier, because we need to process them. So these are important dates that I want you to keep in mind as you apply. Some important election dates. Today, of course, we're doing our webinar. Candidate forums, again, March 21st through March 25th. Student forums will be held at different dates. Student and staff forums held different dates, hosted by the school. On April 18th and April 19th, the students will do their polls. On April 20th is the elementary school election day, and April 24th is the high school election day. The other thing I want to remind you for election, make sure you vote for yourself. We've had situations where candidates don't vote for themselves or just don't vote at all. So you want to make sure you do that, and you want to encourage others to come and vote and also to vote for you. So let's not forget that. All right, so this is the fun part of the event. You've heard me drone on about eligibility and campaigning and dates. This is what you really came for, to hear from our panelists about their experience, but I want to introduce you first to our moderators. We have two great moderators who happen to be our LSC relations specialists. So Marcus Pittman will moderate the panel discussion, and we'll move next into the Q&A section will Greg Ray will moderate that part of our workshop. So I want you to meet our panel. So excited and privileged, and I thank them all again for agreeing to share their experiences. So we have Mr. Jimenez. He is from Hancock College Prep. We have Rem Jonaknek from Walter Payton College Prep. We have Tina Holder King from Tubman Elementary. We have Lilia Mendez from Inter-American Magnet Elementary School. We have Mega Kemka from Walter Payton High School, and Ronnie Mosley from Simeon and Green. These are 2 schools. So I'm going to now turn it over to our panelists and let our panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll do the panel discussion. So we'll start with Mr. Jimenez.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Froilan Jimenez. I teach civics at John Hancock College Prep. I have been a part of our LSC a couple of years now. I'm also the secretary, and I am would like to encourage teachers, but then everyone to have an opportunity to apply and be a part of their school's voice. That's why I got into it. And now I feel that we have more an opportunity to have a say in the decisions that govern, the rules and the policies that are at our school. So thanks very much. Look forward to your questions.
Our next panelist, Rem, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for inviting me to participate, and thanks so much to all of you who are taking the time to join us. My name is Rem Johan-Knecht. I'm a senior at Walter Payton College Prep, and I serve as one of the student reps at Payton and also as the secretary of our budget committee. A little bit about why I ran for LSC. So this is my first year. And last year, we kind of had some internal struggle with our principal's leadership. And ultimately seeing the role that the LSC played really encouraged me, because this year we have kind of a trifecta of selecting a new principal in addition to our typical responsibilities. So I really wanted to take the opportunity to have a lasting impact on my senior year.
Awesome. Thank you. Mrs. Holder King.
Hello, everyone. Kashasha, thanks for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here and share with everyone tonight, and appreciate everyone taking time out of their schedule and making the decision to commit to their school. So congratulations on that. Again, my name is Tina Holder King. I've been on the LSC at Tubman Elementary for rounding up my 5th year now. Initially started, filled a vacancy when a parent rep left, and have since been re-elected to the board twice. As far as why I decided to run, initially my reasons were very specific and targeted to equity issues and some things that needed to change, but eventually that evolved into really wanting to be a part of creating a culture at the school where we kind of think outside the box when it comes to how we educate our students, how we engage our families, and also thinking outside the box of how families are traditionally defined and how family structure, family schedule, location, and all those lifestyles, how they impact a family's engagement, and thinking outside the box in the way to communicate and pull more families and give them a seat at the table.
Tobin is a new name. We may not be familiar with that name. Do you want to also kind of share your involvement in?
Sure. Our school was officially adopted the new name Harriet Tubman Elementary. I think it became official July 1 of 2021. It was formerly called Louis J. Agassiz. And after attempts over a course of a number of years, we were successful in executing a really wonderful student-centered selection for a new name. And so that's how we became Harriet Tubman.
And it's as a side note, that's another one of the duties that LSCs kind of take on as a responsibility, leading that that work and name changing. So thank you so much. Mrs. Mendez, can you please introduce yourself to the group?
Yes, hi, hello everyone. My name is Lilia Mendez and I am a member of the local school council of Inter-American Magnet School. I've been in the LSC for 4 years. As a member of the LSC, I have exercised my leadership and together with other parents and community members, we have voted to bring better programs to our school. Parents are very important in the local school council because we make decisions that involve the education of our children. We are part of a powerful voice on behalf of our children and students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mega Kemka.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Mega Kemka. I'm a sophomore at Walter Payton College Prep, and this is my first year on the school's LSC. I ran for a lot of the same reasons Rem did. As he mentioned last year with our new principal, there were some issues with student voice and equity, and the LSC, of course, played a big role in choosing that principal, but also in determining what to do with those issues once they came up. I also, on a more personal route, ran because I'm an introvert myself, and I wanted to make sure that the voices of people who maybe aren't as vocal and aren't as, loud about the things that they want to say, but still have important opinions were heard in the community.
Awesome, thank you. And our last panelist, Mr. Ronnie Mosley. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you and good evening to everyone. I'm Ronnie Mosley. I have the pleasure of serving as a community rep at Simeon Career Academy in Wendell Green Elementary. I chose to serve there. One, Simeon is my alma mater, is where I graduated from back in 2009. And Wendell Green Elementary is right down the street from the home that my wife and I purchased. So for me, schools are unique. They're special places and they really help shape communities. They're where we learn, where we explore and connect. So it's a way for me to give back to the school that helped shape me and also help shape the community in which I live in.
Awesome, thank you so much for sharing. Just as a reminder for attendees, if you have questions that you want answered, the Q&A section is open. So please write your questions in, because once we finish the panel discussion, we're gonna go right to your questions that you put in the Q&A. If you have very targeted questions for any particular member, T for teacher, question. C for community member, write the question. If it's a parent, P for parent member, and S for a student member. So we can get those questions targeted directly to them, and we want to hear all your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Answer all your questions. Ask all your questions. All right, so I'm gonna be quiet now, and I'm gonna turn it over to our moderator, Mr. Marcus Pittman, for our panel discussion. I'm gonna mute my mic. Marcus, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Kashasha. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marcus Pittman, currently the LSC Specialist for Network 9. I just want to thank each of the LSC members for participating in the event tonight, as well as the attendees. Hopefully there'll be some great information for you that will make you feel better about running as a candidate. So tonight I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask each of the LSC members a series of questions. Each LSC member will have an opportunity to answer each question, hopefully in a minute or less, and then I'll try to rotate so that the same person is not answering questions first. All right, hopefully that was clear to everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Before I'm gonna start with you. Can you share one example of the positive impact that your LSC has made for children or the school community as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. I would say that one of the biggest turnarounds and one of the biggest accomplishments that are student driven at our school, Hancock, was definitely when the LSC was put in a position to consider whether or not we wanted the SRO officers at our school. And I know that was a very good example of how we heard from the community, how we heard from the students, how we heard from the staff, and how the LSC is truly a democratic unit. And so I was very happy that our LSC was able to deliberate and make a very sound decision based on so many voices, and the school resulted in being like they were heard and in a better situation. So I would definitely highlight that example.
Awesome. Rem?
So Peyton is a school that's really like defined by our students' academic achievement and academic excellence. But regardless of that, throughout the past years, we've continued to have discussions about grading outcome inequities, disparities in student belonging and enrollment in AP courses. And something that our LSC has really focused on is kind of addressing a lot of those gaps in achievement that we continue to face, especially through equity audits. So regularly examine, this is part of our continuous improvement work plan, but regularly examining how grading outcomes look in different departments, different courses, to kind of better support and adapt our policies to address a lot of those within our school community.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Megan, I'm going to jump to you. And if anyone needs me to repeat the question, just let me know.
Thanks. Adding on to what Rem mentioned, one specific example was transitioning after a year of online learning last year. There were, of course, a lot of student concerns across the board with just the pace of their classes, with feeling like they were behind on material. And so one thing that we did, for example, is that we sent out a form to collect and organize student concerns, particularly regarding math, because we noticed that that was an area in which there had been a lot of specific concerns about content. And based on that, we were able to work with the math department chair and with administration to come up with new best practices, both in grading and in teaching, to help address students' needs.
Nice. Ms. Mendez.
As I said before, my LSC has brought some better programs to the school, but one of them is a dual reading program that will be help improve Spanish and English reading for our students, because Inter-American Magnet School is a dual language school, so we have to looking for better programs in Spanish, because it's very difficult to find that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that. And I'm going to jump to Tina. And the question again is, share one example of the positive impact that your LSC has made for children or the school community as a whole.
Okay, thank you. As Kashasha mentioned, our school went through a name change, and to really make a long story short, it was a long process getting to the point where we changed the name, and within that time, there was a lot of residual harm left in our community, issues of trust and transparency. And so with that, after that name change, we ended up as a LSC being charged with finding a new principal. And so one thing I'm really proud of our LSC is that throughout that principal selection process, we really put all of our effort into engaging our whole community with surveying our students in our community and our teachers and staff about what they felt the school needed, and also giving them a voice in candidate forums for the community, for the students as well, and also giving them a chance to submit interview questions, and just being as transparent as possible and ensuring them that we were going to get the process done over the summer in time for the kids to have a new principal that could really lead us and keep us on the path towards equity.
Thank you, Tina. I like that. A lot of times we forget that we can utilize our school community to help us with the work. So definitely great answer, good insight on that. Last but not least on this question, Mr. Ronnie Mosley.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say helping to close the digital learning gap, right? So at the beginning of this pandemic, there were so many students that did not have a dedicated learning device at home, a laptop, a computer, a tablet, something to do what we're doing now, logging into Zoom to educate ourselves or to receive some education. So with the help of the district put out a number of devices, and then our LSC worked to transfer and find funds to make sure that every student had access to a device that they can learn. And that's something that's going to carry on, like beyond this pandemic. They can still have that device to learn, to explore, to do work, and not have to stay at a school or miss out on an opportunity. So really proud of our my colleagues and I coming together to get that done.
Awesome. Totally expected nothing but excellent answers. So thank you again for that. Rim, I'm going to start with you on this next question. Can you speak to the time commitment that it takes to serve on your local school council?
I would say that as a student rep, at least, it really is as much or as little as you make it out to be. I would say the minimum is showing up at your monthly meetings, but you can really step up your commitment by holding an officer position, joining committees, taking on initiatives, or just reaching out and communicating with your fellow representatives. Right now, we're also in the middle of hiring a new principal, so that is an added time commitment. I would expect for us, like, we're going to be spending several hours a week interviewing candidates, but it really just depends.
Awesome. Meg, I'm going to jump to you on this one.
Thanks. So as Rem said, the bare minimum is your monthly meetings. Those will be typically capped at 2 hours, and they'll be once a month. If your school is like we are, hiring a principal, or even going through the process of developing a budget, if you want to be part of that, then that's going to be extra time commitment. Those are going to be more meetings that you're going to be doing after school. But I would really encourage people to try to be involved as much as they can, because you get out of it what you put into it.
Awesome. Thank you. Ms. Mendez. And again, the question is, can you speak to the time commitment that it takes to serve on your local school council? Ms. Mendez?
Yes, of course. Usually it takes 2 or 3 hours per month are needed. It's not a lot of time. As a parent, we can do it. As a parent, we can do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Mendez. Not that bad, right? Tina, it's Tina King.
Okay, just echoing what everyone said so far. Of course, you have the monthly meetings and that time commitment. Sometimes we struggle to get under 2 hours, but we do okay. But I think when it comes to other time involvement for other things, it really depends on your structure of your LSC. Of course, there's an opportunity to form committees, and whether or not you participate in those committees and how well the responsibilities are distributed, and that can make your LSC more efficient. But also, I want to make sure that everyone consider time for engaging with your community and attending events, because I think it's important to establish a relationship with the people that you're representing, and also the opportunities for them to communicate with you outside of the meetings, because at the meetings, there's just the public participation section. So I think you have to put some time towards being present at events, or before and after school, or some time possible to really get to know your community and tap into those voices that you're supposed to be representing.
Awesome, wonderful insight. And again, last but not least, Ronnie, or excuse me, I have 2 more to answer. Ronnie, and then I'm going to jump to Freud.
Yeah, of course, it's what you make of it. So we talked about the commitment for regular meetings. I would push and say that we can do a little bit more, right? So think about it. If you're a parent and you drop your child off, maybe you come a little bit early and stay a little later at before and after school times. If you are a teacher, at Simeon, we connect and we provide coffee, tea, refreshments for teachers the first Monday of every month. So just a way to connect and also show appreciation. Community, you want to make sure that the community knows what resources are available at the school, but then also that works two ways, right? So you can get resources from organizations that can really support the entire school community in a holistic way. So go, I would push you to go a bit beyond the regular 2 hours. You can do it.
Gotcha. All right, and Freud, time commitment, serving in the LSC.
Yeah, thanks for the question. As a teacher, there's actually a state law that says that teachers have an ability to form a PPLC that works in conjunction with the LSC. The PPLC is the Professional Problems and Leadership Committee. And that is actually a committee that is an opportunity, just like much of this is an opportunity for teachers and other staff to have a voice. And so in addition to the monthly meetings, as a teacher, you have that opportunity to have a separate committee for your teachers and for your staff to be able to advocate for what you need in your buildings or for what you need whether it comes to curriculum or instruction, something that's pressing in addition to the PPC, which is having to do one more with contractual work. I found that this is a great opportunity. I found that the time commitment is also for leaders that want to interact with other staff members. You know, how's it going today? Do you have any questions about our minutes? What did you think about? What do you think about this pressing issue? What's your opinion? And so sometimes that just comes with being in a building and wanting to seek out what are, you know, teachers and other staff feeling. And so to me, it's not necessarily that it's a committee, it's an opportunity to be able to really voice out for the people that have voted for you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Again, wonderful answers. We're going to move along to the next question. I'm going to start with Mega on this one. How do I make my candidacy or candidate statement stand out from the rest of the candidates? Mega?
Yeah, so I think for me, the most important thing was to actually appeal to the student body in the sense of, as the LSC, especially as a student representative, you're not trying to be the school government. You're trying to connect the student body with the school government. And so it was about just making sure that every student knew that I was there to represent them, to help get their needs heard and their ideas heard, and not to make decisions on their behalf.
Awesome. Ms. Mendez, how do you make your candidacy statement or candidate statement stand out from the rest?
Oh, wow. I believe that we must first be honest and speak from the bottom of our hearts, always thinking about the good for our students' education.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Mendez. I'm going to jump to Ms. Tina King.
Thank you. I would suggest being personal and sincere. I think when you are specific in your intent and take on yourself to share why being on the council is important to you and what your interests are as far as the change that you want to affect. I think when you do that, it makes it personal and it again establishes trust in that you are extending yourself. And so I think people feel like you will be willing to listen to their concerns and to represent them transparently.
Awesome. Thank you. Ronnie, how do you stand out as a candidate during the election?
Yeah, start by listening to learn. You want to make sure that you have a good pulse of what folks are really looking for you to help and deliver. And also that allows you to just respect the wisdom that's in the room, right? You know, as a candidate, I think sometimes we arrive in a space thinking that we have to have all of the solutions. And you want to really have solutions that are based from the folks that you're trying to serve, not just your own mind.
Awesome, awesome. Froy, get your take on that.
Yes, of course. I think first and foremost, you have to know who your audience is and what their needs are and what they're looking for in a candidate. After that, you have to look within yourself and figure out what you bring to the table that matches those needs and say it in a concise way. I think also in many cases, as in my case, it's okay to be bilingual and it's okay to say it y decirlo en un idioma que la gente conozca. I find that that's necessary and depending on your school community, something that is welcome and appreciated.
Awesome. And last but not least, Rem, how do you stand out as a candidate during the election?
I would echo everything that's already been said and just add that I think that one of the best ways to stand out is by learning more about what your LSC is currently doing. If you're not already attending the regular monthly meetings, now is a great time to start. And I would also just say, like, look at and reach out to your current representatives to understand what is in your current CIWP. What weaknesses or challenges are your school facing, so that you can not only communicate what your beliefs and your experiences are, but also you're making it relevant to what your school's current priorities are as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again. And again, for those that don't know, the candidate statement has to be on an 8.5 by 11 inch size paper. So you can actually make that stand out by putting your picture or adding some colors to that as well. Those are some things and tips that folks have taken advantage of that makes their application kind of stand out from the rest. So thank you. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question, and I'm going to start with Ms. Mendez. What's one thing that surprised you about being on the local school council, Ms. Mendez?
Well, the first thing that struck me about being in the LSC was that there are all kind of people and problem, and most of the time you have to play Vegas law. What happened in Vegas stay in Vegas. So you have to be, nice and
Gotta play the game, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yep, that's definitely a good point. Definitely a good point. That could get you in trouble. Ms. King. Again, the question is, what is one thing that surprised you about being on the local school council?
One thing that surprised me, just the personal, the depth of the personal connections. I mean, I think it's a safe assumption that we all care about our children and we want the best for our children. But the passion and the commitment from our community and the encouragement, I think, that resulted in those deep personal connections, not only with my board members, but again, with members of the community, just really surprised me in a great way.
Awesome. Mr. Mosley, thing that surprised you?
The thing that surprised me was really just like the lack of knowledge about the LSC, right? Like the great things that it's charged to do and the roles and responsibilities that are there for us to fulfill. Whether that's not just limited to the public that comes, but also even sometimes the members and the folks that are within the schools themselves. So I'm always excited when I see more folks just checking out, like, what is this about? And invite them to come back.
Absolutely. Information is definitely power. I'm going to jump to Froy. What surprised you about being on the local school council?
Yeah, I'll have to be very honest and upfront. I was shocked at how many members are silent. And in my case, one of the first few meetings I was there, I was actually criticized for asking too many questions. And so, I don't think that asking relevant questions is a problem. I would advocate, especially now since we have students more involved in student voice, ask the right questions and don't be discouraged because, there's somebody of authority or somebody that it's going to say, hey, well, maybe you shouldn't be asking those questions. No, it is precisely the avenue and the forum to ask relevant questions that affect all the stakeholders. And so I was shocked at that, but I'm hoping that people will start to see it as a normality to ask, the right questions.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of being on the LSC, right? I'm going to jump to Rem. What surprised you about being on the LSC?
I think I've been mostly surprised by how eager adults are to hear our perspectives. I think oftentimes I've found that adults simply don't know. And I think the result is kind of a situation where our teachers, our parents, and our other LSC reps, they're eager to hear what students have to say. And that creates a place where our voice and our perspective is kind of centered. I think it's kind of captured by something interesting I once heard, that is kind of the closer to the main office you are, the more you know about what's going on. And I think that gives students a unique and powerful mandate to kind of enact change within their communities.
Well said. Well said. I'm going to jump to Mega last but not least. What surprised you about being on the LSC?
Being completely honest, the most surprising thing at first was just how much agenda approving and voting procedures and all of that, it took me a minute to get the hang of all of that. But you get used to it really fast. And behind that, I was just amazed at the level of engagement of everyone who was on the LSC. I mean, these are parents, teachers, students, administration who are taking hours out of their time to be part of this, to write up reports, to discuss what they think needs to be changed about our school and how we can do better for everyone there. And so I just feel, really grateful and honored to be part of that and to be able to bring, as Rem said, student voice and help everyone make the best decisions.
Awesome, awesome. Again, another excellent set of answers. We're actually on our last question. Again, everybody will have an opportunity to answer. I'm going to start with Tina on this one. What would you say to encourage someone who is hesitant to run in the LSC elections at their school?
Yeah, I would say, well, let me just kind of give a side story. So one of our current members, I personally asked her to run, and her response was, I don't have any career experience that's relevant. I don't really have anything to say. And so I would say to everyone what I said to her: no matter your background, whether or not you work outside the home, the number of children, none of that, your family structure, that's not the most important thing. If you're a part of the school system, then your voice matters. You have a perspective. And the more perspectives we bring to the table, the better suited our system will be for more children and more families. So don't look at this as a professional application. Look at it as taking on a task to better your community in your school. And go for it.
Thank you, Ms. King. Mr. Mosley.
I'm gonna say run to win, right? And I'm not talking about just you as a candidate, but for the folks that you are representing, the fight, the things that have to be won on. And you learn that by working together with everyone, right? We all arrive in this space because we want better. We want to see improvements. We want to make some change. We have different ideas about that. So let's talk about them together and see what all we can do when we start working together.
Thank you. Mr. Jimenez.
I would say, do you know how fun 2-hour parties? Well, in seriousness, I would say that just by applying and having a contested LSC elections, you're benefiting your school. And I teach civics, and just by having the ability to have different ideas, to be able to have a forum, to be able to make sure that there's attention on the governance of our school and those voices are heard. I think that's a win for your school. If you want your school to improve, and if you want more ideas as to how to improve it, encourage more and more people to get involved and make a difference. I know it sounds cliche, but it really does. We're the most basic democratic unit in the CPS and represented by so many. And I think that when we have examples of LSCs whose some members don't run or some particular groups don't run, that is a sad reality. We should encourage more people to run.
Absolutely. Rem, your take on this?
I would say to students that you should do it. You should shoot your shot. And I think that if you're spending an hour plus on a Zoom call after school, that's a great sign that you would be a good fit for your LSC. I would also just say that being on the LSC, I think even more so than being on a student government, is the most effective way for students to be leaders in their school. I think that this is 100% hands down the most effective way. And then also for not if, but when you become a representative, because I like manifesting things. A piece of advice that I would give is to take up space as a representative, something that I like to actively do. We don't just sit there, but we second motions, we make motions ourselves, getting involved in those little procedural things. You can serve on committees. I think for students, it's important to know that you have a right and a responsibility to be just as active and as vocal as everyone else.
Awesome. Mega, what would you say to someone who's hesitant to run for the LSC?
Yeah, really echoing everything Rem said, and particularly for students, I would just say, don't not run because you don't think you have the experience or you don't think you have the ability. You know, I'm not in student government. I wasn't in student government in middle school, but now I'm part of the LSC and I'm so, honored to be involved with everything that's happening. And it's been an amazing experience. And the second thing is, don't not run because you don't think you have anything to say. Because what we've found is that a lot of times there are just things that you take for granted or needs that, the conversations you're having with your friends at lunch about so and so class is really a struggle. Or wouldn't it be great if so and so thing was a policy at my school? All of that, a lot of adults don't know that. That is something that, the friend group you're hanging out with, the experiences you've had, that's important for your school because you are a student and your school is serving you. So don't not run because you don't think you can do it or you don't think you have anything valuable to contribute, because you absolutely do.
Awesome. Excellent answer. And last but not least, Miss Lilia Mendez, what would you say to encourage someone who is hesitant to run for the local school council?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't worry. That all it takes to be on the LSC is a desire to advocate for our education of our children. So who will the kids, these kids will be the next lawyers, doctors, teachers, and engineers in our community. So go for it. Don't worry.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again. You heard it here, folks. Again, I want to thank all of you for answering such wonderful questions. Hey, you heard it. Don't be scared. Run for your LSC. Get involved. If you're thinking about running, right? If you're even thinking about it, that should tell you that you should run because you care, right? So once again, thank you for all the wonderful answers that you provided. I'm sure you're going to make a difference in some of the folks that who are on the fence. And at this time, I'd like to turn it back to our host, Kishasha.
Hey, thanks so much. I like the words of encouragement. Shoot your shot. Don't be quiet. Use your voice on the LSC. Yeah, go for it. I take all of that. And I don't have the privilege or honor to be an LSC member. I wish I could. I'm a board employee, unfortunately. But when I retire, I'm all over it. So just so you know, you better watch out. So right now, I'm going to turn it over. We're going to do our question answer session right now. So attendees put some really good questions in the chat, and we're going to share them with the panelists. Greg, there's some questions that are more kind of departmental and process oriented. So I'll let you flag those. But the questions that are geared towards our panelists, they're on that share sheet. Okay. So
Yes, ma'am.
Turn it over now to Greg Gray.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this evening's webinar and panel session. First up, just a big shout out to all the panelists for their responses and their experiences. We first and foremost thank you because you guys are the ones that are on the front line at the local level, making a difference. And I salute you first and foremost. That being said, throughout the course of the panel discussion, we were taking questions in the Q&A section that people were typing in. Some of them have been presented already to panelists this evening, as in the time commitment, how frequently are you meeting? And those have been answered pretty well. So I'm going to go down to one that came in that asked specifically for the student, Mr. Johan Connect. The question was, a follow-up to the time commitment question, do you find that you're able to participate in any other after-school activities, as in sports or clubs?
Definitely, I would say my answer is a definite yes. I am involved in more things than I can count. But I would say that if you're going to run for an LSC, I would just say that you make sure that the LSC, as many other commitments you have, the LSC remains your top priority, because you do have a commitment as a representative to your community. But with that said, I think it's 100% possible to be a successful student and have family commitments or extracurricular commitments and still be effective.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. We had a question in for Mega. Mega, the question reads, what did you learn on the LSC that you never knew about prior to becoming a member?
So many things won't fit into the 1 minute that I want to allocate for this response, but I'd say the biggest one is just getting a window into the administrative process, learning about what our teachers' needs are, what administration does, how the school is run, everything behind the scenes. I mean, what goes into making a successful school community. It's just incredible to see the inner workings of all of that and to be a part of that and learn how you can influence it.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Always support our younger people. Always support our younger people. This next question is for Mr. Mosley. Mr. Mosley, being a two-time member of various local school councils, the question was raised, as an LSC member at different schools, how do you do both?
Yeah, it's the proximity for me, right? Great for me is that these are schools in my community. So again, Green is 2 blocks away from me. Simeon is less than a mile away from me. I've always been like the type of person just to be active. I was the student rep when I was a student at Simeon and so forth. So it's important to me, and I make sure that I make time for it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This next question came in for Ms. King, Ms. Tina Holder King. Can you give some tips for a successful campaign?
For a successful campaign running for LSC. In echoing some of the things that were mentioned, as far as seeking knowledge about the needs in the community. And I think it was Grim who gave the advice as far as getting to know your school CIWP and what's priority and what are the goals. In addition to those things, again, I would say talk to people. That there's nothing like that personal connection. When I work far north, and so I'm usually slowing down to 30 to push my daughter out of the car for school and taking off from my commute. But during the campaign and as I got on the LSC, I had to find other ways to connect with the people I was supposed to be representing. And so that can look different for many people, but I would say sort that out, and take the initiative, because people need someone representing them that they can trust is going to speak up for them. And so if you don't speak up for yourself, then you're not going to instill in your constituency the confidence that you're going to represent them, sometimes with a voice, even when it's hard or when you're being shut down, to Froyland's point. So I would say be present, speak up, and initiate that contact with your constituency.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Outstanding answer. And that's a nice segue mentioning Mr. Froyland, because the next question was for Mr. Jimenez. Mr. Jimenez, the question came in. How do you see LSCs building trust and relationships with the student and staff communities at their school in order to be able to represent and or advocate for their interests?
Well, let me just compliment on the person who asked that question. That's a very thoughtful question. One of the ways that I would answer that question is ask yourself, what are the current mechanisms that your school has for input intake? Or how do you get people to provide input at your school? You know, some people would say that there is the public participation element to LSCs, but that's only, just the start. As one of the teachers representatives at my school, we've developed a simple Google form that on a regular basis, we send out to teachers and staff and ask them, what did you think about the last meeting? What do you think, or what are your opinions going into this next meeting? And, at different intervals, I think there should be an opportunity to seek feedback. Now, they also asked about other groups that need the trust of LSC members. For instance, student groups. How do we get more student voice? There should be a dedicated interaction between the principal or some of the other LSC members to listen and to attend the governing bodies of students, such as the student council, et cetera, to be able to sort of synchronize and connect what those voices are saying to what is being discussed at the LSC. So I think there are many possibilities to be able to seek input. Every school is different, but that is a win-win-win situation where you have multiple ways of obtaining feedback and input.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. Ms. Mendez, question came in for you. What is a good way to get to know the people that you are representing, since we are not currently allowed in the school building?
Well, sometimes we can go outside the school, join with others, talk with some parents and make some flyers and talk with some parents that they have the same ideas to get them to support you. And, you know, we have to make connections. Like many people say here, maybe now with that in pandemic times, we don't have time to know each other. So we can stop and talk with the people and say, hi, my name is Lilia Mendez. I'm running for the LSC, and ask for some questions. And we have to talk with our community now.
Okay, I feel you on that one. Ms. King, back to you. Question came in, how can you attract a community and a school when the school is not friendly to people that want to run for the LSC? I mean it when I say they are not friendly to senior parents and do not welcome new parents. This is exactly how it came in.
Can you read the first part one more time?
Yes. How can you attract a community and school community when the school is not friendly to run for the LSC?
I'm first of all, I'm not going to sit here and give the rah-rah answer. You can do it, because that's a real challenge, and unfortunately, that is a challenge that I think a lot of people face. Because schools, even though there are adult parents, it can be like when you're a kid in school, and it can be cliquish. You know, outsiders may not be welcome. I would say, first and foremost, internally, make a decision to not be discouraged and to believe in yourself, because until that culture starts to change, that may be your only saving grace. So commit to yourself internally. Externally, I would say just be present. Even if you are not able to speak right away, or even if you're not invited in certain circles, you don't have to wait for an invitation. You have a right to be in certain spaces regardless. So show up and be present. And I think that situation, when you do that, people notice. And there are probably people who are feeling and going through exactly what you're feeling and going through. And so you will be able to seek out those other individuals who may feel the same. When they start to see you show up, then someone will probably reach out to you because they see that and detect that you are going through or feeling what they feel. So I would say start there. Internal resolve and show up. Whether or not you're allowed to say anything, show up and keep at it.
All right, thank you very much. Definitely a tough question. Definitely a tough question, but you answered admirably. Okay, this question is actually, I guess, geared towards our office. So they asked me to respond. Can you serve on 2 different local school councils? One as a teacher and one as a parent? And my response to that is, if you are a teacher, you are a CPS employee, and you can run as a teacher at the school where you are assigned the majority of your work schedule. Yes, you can run as a teacher. If you also have a child that attends a separate school, you are not eligible to run as a parent because you are a Board of Education employee. You cannot be a board employee and run as a parent or a community rep. If you are a teacher, you can only run as a teacher rep at the school where you are assigned for the majority of your work schedule. However, you can vote at your child's school where you are a parent. Because you are a parent, you are eligible to vote in their election for the parent and community seats, as well as voting as a staff person at the school where you are a staff member. But you cannot run as a parent member because you are a Board of Education employee. Board of Education employees can only run as either the teacher rep or the non-teacher rep at the school where they spend the majority of their work schedule. There we go. So that being said, next question. We'll go to Mr. Mosley. It says anyone. So we'll go to Mr. Mosley. Can I pass out my campaign flyers at school?
On election day, yes. 50 feet away from the entrance, right?
What about other days? I'm guessing they want to know about other days as well.
I don't know.
Greg.
Outside of the building?
Well, okay. You cannot pass out flyers at any location that's deemed to be Board of Education property, which would include the foyer of the building, the parking lot, public sidewalk, you're fine. Public sidewalk all day, all night, no problem. Outside the building, yes. Anything that's identified as school property, you cannot. The school, however, will send a set of flyers home on literature distribution day, which was outlined in the previous presentation. That is the only time where the school will use their resources to distribute a candidate's campaign literature. And of course, on election day, there's no passing out of any information within 50 feet of any door that's open to the polling place, and of course, nothing within the building itself. Did I get all that right, Ms. Williams-Ford?
You did.
Greg,
So.
this is Toy. There's one question in the document that you should probably address. It's currently put in.
We've got several. Question for Ms. Holder King. Is it better to run as an individual or as a slate?
That's a really good question. I have done both, and I would say my decision was based on the climate at the school at the time. And so, for instance, when I ran as part of a slate, there was a very specific intent and a specific need that had been expressed by a large group of parents and some students. And we on the slate felt that it was to our advantage to let people know exactly where we stood on those issues and to provide each other with support, somewhat of an endorsement that, you know, I know this person stands for this. And so I would say that running as a slate could be advantageous in that situation. Unfortunately, some people, being quite honest, some people were offended by that, took it personal. But I will say that I would not do anything differently. As part of that slate, I was very clear that my endorsement of other candidates was not anything against other candidates. It was just saying that this person stands for what I stand for. And if that's what interests you to move this school forward, then these could be the people for you.
Okay. Mr. Jimenez, question for you, sir. How do you motivate your staff to run for seats on the local school council?
Is the question, how do I motivate my staff? Because I don't have any staff.
We'll say your colleagues.
My colleagues. Oh, okay, my colleagues. How do I make my colleagues to run for another LSC seat? Is that the question?
Yes, sir.
I would say that it's an opportunity, and we encourage collaboration. We encourage to be able to work with the administration so that we feel like we all have some input in what takes place at our school. I know that doesn't necessarily happen in all schools, but it's something to shoot for. It's something to walk into an environment, specifically an educational environment, and feel like you have a say in how your school functions. That's a beautiful thing, and certainly one thing that motivates me and motivates my colleagues.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Very well said, very well said. Another question came in, I guess, for the admins. Question, are we allowed to set up our own Zoom meet and greet to talk to some parents as a part of the election to hear parent concerns? If you're not using any school resources and you set up your own Google link and you invited people to attend, you contacted them by some means that did not use school resources, there's nothing to prevent you from doing it. It's nothing any more different than assembling if you were at the local church in the auditorium. You were speaking to the people that were in front of you there. If it's something that they set up themselves without using school resources, yes, you can have a meet and greet. You're talking to the people that you're asking to vote for you. So I would say yes.
And the other thing I want to reiterate that Mr. Gray mentioned about, so long as we're not using school resources. So that means you're not asking teachers for parent emails. You're not asking admin. You're not asking admin for parents' emails. So if these are people that you already know and you've already gotten their emails from them and you're inviting them to these meetings, that's fine. But you cannot use CPS resources to gather or gain the parents' email addresses. So please don't do that. Okay, just wanted to make that small caveat.
All right, thank you. Another question came in. How do we find out who is running in our voting area and what their platform/goals are? All right. For those of you who are not familiar, on our CPS LSC elections webpage, we actually have a map of the schools that are hosting elections with the number of parent as well as community candidates that have submitted their names for consideration. The map is live and interactive. You could go to it now, look up your school, and then it will tell you how many parent or community members indeed are running at that particular school in real time. It will also show you the names of any staff candidates that are also running. So you can go look at that. That will be up from now until post-election. You can see that in real time. It's updated immediately. That way you can find out who is running at your particular school. And as far as what their platforms are, if they have submitted the candidate statement, that would probably be the best way to find out what their platform or what their goals are. Or if that's not available, maybe attending the candidate forum where they have an opportunity to speak to the public at large as to why they felt they would be great candidates to join your local school council. Those would be my two recommended ways, either viewing their candidate statements attending a candidate forum in some way or fashion. Let's see. For Mr. Jimenez, being our lone teacher up here this evening, why does it seem as though a lot of teachers tend to run in the LSC election?
Well, I think one, teachers tend to want their opinions heard and want to be able to have a say in what happens in their school. I think that's a good thing. I think that teachers, competition is going to foster good dialogue. It's going to foster, possibly good ideas and suggestions. And so the fact that many teachers are running, I think is a positive thing. I also do think that only 2 teachers are selected per school, and that there is certainly a lot more spots for parents, and now there's more spots for students. So that's healthy, and I hope that there is more people running for each of those sort of positions, so that we do have healthy competition and dialogue, and I think that's a part of our beautiful thing about our country, and I encourage it.
All right, thank you, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. And our final question of the evening will go to Mrs. Mendez. Mrs. Mendez, the question for you: can members of the LSC help resolve issues with the principal or with any other issues that may occur at the school?
Okay, we have some issues at the school with the principal, and sometimes we have some issues. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And sometimes we have to resolve some issues with the discipline and with some other committees. So we have to be, the first thing that we have to do is be respectful with everyone. Not everybody has the same ideas and the same moral, or some people is different. So we have to be the respectful, always respectful. And we have a lot of problems, and let's see, I don't want to lie you. I don't want to lie, but we can do it. We can do what everything, because we are a group of people there. We are not alone. We have to work together, always together. So we can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, I want to thank everyone that submitted questions from our audience. And again, thank you to our outstanding panelists for answering every one of the questions wonderfully. I want to turn it back over to our director, Dr. Kishasha Ford-Williams, for our closing, and we can get back on our Tuesday way.
All right. So, Greg, I appreciate the promotion, the extra degree. I wish I had a doctorate. I may go back to school, but thank you so much, panelists. I appreciate your time. Our student members had to leave because they had to go to an LSC meeting at their school at 6:30. So they left us for the evening. But what I would like to do is I do have one final ask before we get out of here. So I'm gonna share my screen again. We are looking for election judges. Since I have this captive audience here, I might as well make this ask related to election judges. To be an election judge, you have to be at least 18 years old and attend a mandatory training that our office provides. If you know anyone, if you don't want to run, you may decide to be an election judge, or you can run as a candidate and still be an election judge, but not at the school you're running. Be willing to serve a full day. Each day that you work, you will be paid $250 a day. Application materials are due to our office by March the 8th. And all the forms, application, IRS, and vendor forms should be emailed to lscjudge@cps.edu. So I wanted to make that ask before we left. I have another ask. I have 2 asks. No, I have 3 before we get out of here. I'm going to drop in the chat a link to an exit survey that we would like everyone here to complete, just to give us a sense of did you learn anything? Was it beneficial? So we would like for you to fill out the exit survey. And then finally, the final ask is to help us to spread the word. Post on your social media. If you know people that would be interested in becoming members of the LSC, and share your vision for, working together to improve education for our students, share the word, pass this information along. We need people that are passionate about working for the betterment of our students. We want people like yourself that are here because you're obviously interested. We want people like you to, make that substantial step and run for office and encourage others. If you can't do it, you're not able to make the commitment, find others that that share your commitment to making sure our students have the best education that they can have. And that is my last slide. But let me stop sharing. Panelists, thank you. Attendees, thank you. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'm looking forward to connecting with you. My email and contact numbers on the LSC website. I am literally an email or phone call away. I will call you back if you have concerns or questions. I try to be responsive, and I'm looking forward to each of you on this call running. And I'm looking forward to you being a part of the next council membership at your school. Panelists, thank you again. Have a good evening. It is 6:56. Please fill out the exit survey. That would make me happy. And thank you all, my moderators. Thank you for doing an awesome job. You have a good evening. Thank you.